Hello class. This video is a video on how to draw a 2-point perspective grid. Now there are instructions that I've uploaded on iLearn that actually takes you step by step on how to draw this grid. What I'm going to do today is actually draw the grid right in front of you so that there's no question on how to draw it. This original grid that I've already drawn. I've used 2 sheets of typing paper, see that, and I've taped them on the back. So I've taped it here and here. What you should do is actually tape it at the top and at the bottom and the middle. I say that because my piece of paper lifts up like that. You don't want that to happen. So tape the 2 pieces of paper together, flip it over with the tape on the back side, and you're going to draw this grid. Now, before I draw it, I wanted to explain it to you. The way I drew this is I drew a horizontal line or horizon line about the middle of the paper, and I located left vanishing point on one side and right vanishing point on the other side, and then drew a vertical line, which I called a vertical measuring line, right in the middle. Now you can see on this sheet of paper, I have what's called different line weights. And what I mean by that is that there's some lines that are thin and light, and there's some lines that are thick and dark. Now I want that contrast because if I don't have that contrast, it's not very clear what we're seeing here. And what we're actually seeing is a wall here, a ceiling up here, and a floor here. So it's an actual interior space, and we're looking at the corner of it, with the corner being here. The heavy lines here really show the divisions between the ceiling, which are these 2 dark lines, the corner, which is that dark line, and the floor and wall, which is those 2 dark lines. And that's why they're a little bit heavier. The rest of the lines are pretty close to being the same in terms of line weight, in terms of darkness and lightness and thickness. Okay, so let's proceed. Let me take this off. What I have is I have a blank sheet of paper. It's taped down. Make sure when you tape it down, you have a drawing surface that's nice and flat, no texture, and make sure there's nothing underneath, right? We don't want to draw it over any lumps or any bumps. You could use your dining room table. That may work if it's nice and flat and smooth. You can use a piece of board that you could buy that's flat and smooth. You could use a piece of plywood as long as there's no knots and the plywood is nice and smooth, just like this piece of wood. So I've started out with that. I've taped the paper together, laid it down on a flat surface, and then took drafting tape and taped the corners. Now be sure to use drafting tape because that tape will peel off easily. Any other tape will just make it stick to the board, and you're going to have a hard time getting the sheet off the board. The other thing with the tape is that you should burnish it a little bit so that these pieces of tape are flat, and that way your triangle or whatever tool you're rolling over it won't catch on it and lift it up. Okay, so I've got the paper, I've got it taped down in the corners. Now the first thing I'm going to do is draw a line about in the middle, just guesstimate where the middle is. And the way I'm going to draw this is I'm going to use 2 triangles. Now, if you don't have a T-square, 2 triangles will still work. You have to use one of them as if it's a T-square and then shift it around. What I mean by that is that if I've got a T-square like this, and I've got a T-square like that, you can shift this around to create parallel lines. And also perpendicular lines that are at right angles to each other. So the first thing I'm going to do is actually put my 45-degree triangle over here. This is 45, 45, 45, 90. And I've got a 30, 60 here, 30, 60, 90. I'm going to put that 45 right at the edge. And I'm going to put my 30, 60 perpendicular to it. Now I'm going to use a pen. The earlier drawing was a pencil drawing, but I'm going to use a pen with a thin line. So this should be a Sharpie Ultra Fine. I believe it's Ultra Fine. Which one is this? Yeah, Ultra Fine and Fine. This is similar to an Ultra Fine. I'm going to draw a light line across to the end of the triangle. That's my light line. I'm going to carry that further across, flip my triangle over, and I'm going to align it with the line. I've got a little space just below so that the pen can rest on the triangle. And as soon as that is in alignment, I'm going to draw it all the way to the other end. Okay, perfect. Okay, so I've got a nice straight line. That's going to be my horizon line. Now I need a vertical line. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my triangle again, and I'm going to put it at the bottom of my sheet of paper. Now, earlier I had it at the side here, and what I'm doing is I'm trying to match parallel lines to the edge of the sheet of paper. This line, because it's perpendicular to this triangle, should be parallel to that bottom. So I know that. I can now use the bottom as a guide, and again use my triangle, my two triangles. Shift this a little bit off to the left-hand side, not quite in the center of the sheet of paper, and draw another guideline. Okay, great. Now, with these two lines, I could start my perspective. My perspective, again, is going to have a left-hand vanishing point, a right-hand vanishing point, and I'm going to have a line here which I call the vertical measuring line. On this line, I'm going to measure accurately in feet, 8 feet. Now, in order to do that, you need a architect's scale, and you need to have the measurement of 1/4 inch equals a foot. Now, I'm left-handed. I'm marking this with the 0 at the top. If you're right-handed, you're probably marking the 0 at the bottom. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and do that. So I'm going to measure 5 feet from the middle, the horizon line, down to 0. And from the middle here, I'm going to measure 3 feet, which will total 8 feet. So let's put our scale in the right position. I'm going to put the 5 here at the horizon line, and then I'm going to put the 0 here, and I'm going to put a tick mark at every foot. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, and then horizon line is 5. I don't have to mark that. 6, and then 7, and then 8. Now, the reason why I use 8 feet is because the typical residential height of a living room or bedroom, any living space would be about 8 feet. And what I'm going to use this grid for is actually a residential space. It'll be a space that's either, again, a bedroom or a living room or a dining room. So that's why I'm using the 8 feet here as the measurement. Now, the next thing I need to do is locate the left vantage point and the right-hand vantage point. The instructions that I uploaded at iLearn has the left vanishing point twice this height in that direction. So 2 times 8 is 16 feet. Then on the right-hand vantage point, I've got 4 times the height of that 8 feet. So that 4 times 8 is 32. So 32 feet measured from the cross here, the intersection of the vertical measuring line and the horizon line in this direction will locate my right-hand vantage point. So let's go ahead and do that. Take your scale again. I'm going to put 0 right here, right where the intersection is, and then I'm going to measure off 16 feet. 16 feet is right there. I just need one measurement. And on the right-hand side, I'm measuring 32. So I'm going to take my scale, put 32 right at the crosshairs, right at the intersection there, and mark off 32 feet at the 0 there. Okay, so again, right-hand vanishing point, left-hand vanishing point. Now what I'm going to do is draw lines from both vanishing points, meet the tick marks on the vertical measuring line, and draw them at an angle, all angled to each vanishing point. So one of the rules of perspective is that your lines are either going to be vertical, or they're going to the right or the left-hand vanishing point, if it's a rectilinear object. Okay, so let's draw that. In fact, what I'm going to do is label things here. I'll call this the right-hand vanishing point, right VP. I'm going to call this left VP. And I'm going to call this vertical measuring line. Great. Okay. Let's draw these grid lines. So I've got right vanishing point. I've got marked off 1, 2, 3, and 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 feet. 3 feet on top, 5 feet at the bottom. Let's do this. So I'll align the right vanishing point with the grid here with the tick mark. And you always want to align just a little bit below so that you could fit your pen point right on top. So there's the right vanishing point. Okay, it's one line. If you'd like, you can use your pen, especially if you're doing this in pencil, as kind of a pivot. Perfect. And I could see a little bit of bleeding there of the pen, so I'm going to just align the points together so it won't bleed as much. Okay. I don't have to draw the horizon line, it's already there. Again, align the 2 points, right vanishing point and tick mark on the vertical measuring line. Keep going. Try to be as accurate as you can. Perspectives need to actually be drawn accurately, so that if you are drawing inaccurately, you could tell right away that things aren't in perspective. So again, they're either drawn to the right or left-hand vanishing point or vertical in a 2-point perspective. Okay, so I've got lines from the right vanishing point to each of these tick marks and then out. Now I'm going to do the same thing, but I'm going to use the left vanishing point and then I'm going to line it with each of these tick marks. So let's do that. Left vanishing point. If you're using pencil, you could use it as a pivot. In other words, I could put my pencil here and pivot my triangle around it. But I'm using these felt tip pens. They bleed a little bit, and I really want the lines to read well, so I don't want them to bleed. So again, line up the points and draw the line. The horizon line already exists. I don't need to draw that. Line up the 2 points. And you don't have to bear down that hard because, again, these are construction lines for the grid or grid lines. And so they don't need to be that dark. Okay, hit every tick mark, the same tick marks that you use going from the right vanishing point. Last one here. Oops. Okay. Great. Okay. So I've got 9 lines here, including the horizon line. I've got 9 lines here, including the horizon line. And I have 8 spaces for each foot on each side. Now, if you look at the start of this grid, you can see that I'm seeing actually more of the right side rather than the left side. It's much bigger on this side of the vertical measuring line. So you'll see that it'll be even more apparent when you start actually drawing your perspective. The next thing I need to do is actually draw a line that would be at a 45-degree angle from that corner. And I'm going to use that line that's drawn at a 45-degree at that corner going this way and this way. And each time that line, let me demonstrate that, each time that line intersects with one of these lines going to the vantage point, I'm going to draw a vertical line. Okay. So let me demonstrate that for you. Again, I'm going to align things. We don't have a T-square, so I can't really align things very easily. I'm going to put my 3060 over here, right here at the bottom. You could kind of butt up to it a little bit, if you can. Yeah, there we go. This triangle's butt up to the bottom. And then I'm going to take my 45-degree triangle. I'm going to start at this bottom corner, right at the corner of the grid here, and draw 45 in that direction. Okay. Now, when I draw that 45, I see that these lines going from the left vanishing point out intersect here, they intersect here, and so on. So what I'm going to do is, again, flip my triangle so that I could get vertical lines. And I'm actually going to start at the bottom. So do you see this 45-degree angle? It's intersecting with this line going to the left vantage point right over there. So I'm going to draw a vertical line. Going up this 45-degree angle, the next line it hits is this line over here. This other line was kind of light, so let me darken that up a little bit. Oh, still not dark. Hold on. Okay. 45 going up. The next line it hits is right there. And 45 going up. The next line that hits right there. You can see you can be easily kind of confused. One hint, though, is that these lines should get wider as they proceed off to the right over here. So they're not all equal, actually. And then the next line is right there, the horizon line. And next line is right there, a little wider. And then the next line is right over here, that intersection. And the very last one is at the very top, is right here. Again, 45-degree from the left vantage point up. Perfect. Okay, now you can see from the grid, it gets narrow here and then it gets gradually wider. That's supposed to happen. All right, let's do this on the other side. So I'm going to shift my 45-degree triangle and again, make sure the bottom is aligned with the bottom of the sheet of paper. And I'm going to move this across, draw another 45. Great. And every time that 45 hits a line, this time from the right vantage point out, I'm going to draw a vertical. So right vantage point out, 45-degree angle, and that intersection is right there. 45-degree angle, the next line is right there, going from the right vantage point out. Again, right vantage point out, and then 45-degree angle is right there. And again, you notice that these lines are now spacing a little bit closer together. 45-degree angle there, and the next line is going in this direction. And let's see. Logically, it should get a little narrower. So I've got a line here. Here we go, right over there. And a 45-degree angle, horizon line right there. 45-degree angle, and the next line is right there. 45-degree angle, and the line's right there. I'm drawing these kind of light. I'll have to go over them again so that you can see them. But, the key is to get that 45-degree angle. Okay, and let me darken some of these other lines that are a little bit too light. Actually, some of them aren't even drawn. Okay, great. So I have this grid along each of these walls. This being one wall on the left side, this being another wall on the right side. Almost done here. The next set of grid lines I need to draw actually are lines that are hitting the bottom here and going to either the right vanishing point or the left vanishing point. What that's going to do is create a grid on the floor, on the ground, which I could use to measure things that are in the floor plan. So let's go ahead and do that. Right vanishing point, and then each of these points along this line, right? A little bit easier to see. Try to be as accurate as you can. You can see this could be like a spider web after a while. But you'll see what I'm going to do with line weight to make it a little bit more clear. Again, try to be as accurate as you can. I must have said that 10 times already, but it's important. And again, I'm lining the right vanishing point to all the lines that end at the bottom here. And I'm not bearing down too much with the pen, even though it's a pen and it has consistent line weight. I'm trying to draw very, very lightly. Okay, so again, right vanishing point to each of these points here and then out. And notice that the grid gets wide towards you, and then as it recedes to the back, the grid gets smaller, right? Same proportions as these lines. The next set of lines we're going to draw is from the left vanishing point to each of these points at the bottom here, which represents the intersection of the wall and the floor. So I'm going to start here and draw a line from the left vanishing point. And I'm going to draw 8 of them. So again, you're looking at the bottom of the wall and you're drawing lines to the left vanishing point. I kind of missed that one. I'm aiming towards the bottom again. I should end up having 9 lines and 8 spaces. Again, it's the bottom points here where these vertical lines end up, and then the intersection of the floor and the wall. Cool, okay. So I've got my grid done. What I'm going to do is come back with a darker pen, so I'm going to close the tip of this. And remember to always close your felt tip pens because they're alcohol based, and if you don't close it, it'll dry out. That goes for the gray markers too. All right. So I've got the vertical measuring line that actually represents the corner of the interior space. I'm going to draw that a little bit darker. And then I've got lines that are going to the vanishing points, right vanishing point. and they form the walls actually. Again, right at the end of this 8-foot line. And then from the right vantage point to the ceiling. And even though I'm tracing, I'm still trying to align with that right vanishing point, just so that it looks right. Always align to the vanishing point. Okay, left vanishing point, top here. And at the bottom. Now, see how you know, the contrast between the dark thick lines and the lighter lines, that really does make a difference. So on this sheet of paper, I have a grid, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the floor here, and if I've got a piece of furniture that's say 3 by 3, I'm going to count 3 squares, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and draw a rectangle on the floor and then elevate it up. When I elevate it up, if it's 2 feet high, I can use this grid line here carried across and establish the height. So that's our next step after we draw the grid. But right now, you've got enough to work with. You have all the grid lines set up. Make sure you create these dark lines so that you could define where one wall is, another wall is, the floor is, and the ceiling. And then you're done. Photograph this, upload this in iLearn, and I will give you credit for it. So onward and upward.